Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend the conference, and special thanks to VentureBeat for allowing the Columbus region to really tell a little bit about our story and all the great things that are happening there. I couldn't possibly go into too much detail in 5 minutes, so I'm just going to touch on a couple of the programs and partnerships that have had a really big impact on our region. So if you look just 5 years ago, a little less than 5 years ago, what you will see is a very different startup economy than what is going on in the region now. A fairly nascent startup economy. And while we had a lot of the major ingredients to kickstart the economy, really none of that was connected. So we have a very diverse corporate base. We boast the 6th largest Fortune 1000 base in the U.S. Great universities led by the Ohio State University, so we've got a lot of research opportunity there. And also a very engaged community who wants to see this happen. But the resources were just not connected. And one of the fundamental gaps was just lack of organized venture capital in the region. So while a few startups were finding funding, very few of them were finding follow-on funding, and very few of them finding the opportunity to scale. So if you fast forward to where we are today, Columbus is now one of the most active and growing seed regions in the U.S. In 2016, the Kaufman Group ranked as the #1 city for scaling up startups. We've also been ranked multiple times the most active seed region in the U.S. And as you can see from a lot of these stats here, really good things up and to the right around growth in venture capital, growth in funding, and growth in spin-out. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how that started and where the strategy began. So the fundamental background on this is that it's a very conscious strategy by our region to connect both the existing assets in the region and to really fill in the gaps where we didn't have support. And that strategy started with the commitment from the Fortune 1000 base. So we have an organization in Columbus called the Columbus Partnership, and it is in a nonprofit group of more than 65 CEOs from the largest Fortune 1000 and large companies in the region. And they got together and said, we're doing a good job of attracting companies to our region. We're doing a good job of helping those companies grow and finding ways for them to stick around, but we're not doing a lot to start early companies. And so what they said was they wanted to start really a startup hub that could start to connect those assets and to raise new capital. And so through that effort, they helped to form what is now Rev1 Ventures, which is an investor startup studio focused on funding the earliest stage companies. They helped to attract and recruit the CEO of Rev1. His name is Tom Walker, and he brought in a team that helped to basically raise funding, get buy-in from the corporate base, and help to create very targeted services focused around early stage companies. So as you can imagine, in a city where very few startups were being formed and were finding funding, not a lot of serial entrepreneurship, not a lot of been there, done that, I know where to go for this. And so finding ways to bring resources to startups to help them really see around the corner of what could be next. One of the fundamental programs that the region bought into was really a rapid product market validation program, which is what we call Customer Learning Lab today. So the entire region uses this 3-day boot camp to help entrepreneurs to quickly identify, using survey data from their market, if what they're building or have already built is something that they should continue to rally around and build. And that's been a really good kind of clearinghouse for identifying which organizations to support. Also to the table came the research institutions, and that was, again, really led by the Ohio State University. And I know we do have one of our tech commercialization partners at Ohio State in the audience, so Zach, raise your hand. I encourage you to see Zach about what Ohio State's doing. But really what Ohio State said was we could be doing more, and they looked at opportunities beyond just grants, opportunities to partner with venture funds to be able to back startups. And so each of these organizations listed here now have dedicated funds focused on commercialization, and that's really led to the increase in spin-outs from these institutions. The communities also came to the table. So if you look at just some of the stats around Columbus and Ohio in general, Columbus is one of the only high-growth cities happening in Ohio. Columbus is the largest Midwest city, just behind Chicago, and just surpassed Indianapolis to go from 15 to 14 in the U.S. So you have a lot of high-growth communities who came to the table and said, instead of building a tech acceleration engine, we're going to buy into a regional strategy, and then in our regions we can focus more on Main Street businesses and funnel the high-tech opportunities to the hub. And so we're partnering with these organizations to help identify and fund the best and brightest. And I can't forget to mention one of the most important parts of this strategy, which is the Ohio Third Frontier. I encourage you to look up this program, but it's a taxpayer bond measure where the whole state voted to dedicate funding to support high-growth companies. And so for every dollar that we can raise across our communities to fund and support startups, the state will match that in either a 2-to-1 or a 1-to-1 ratio. And so that's really helped to bring partners on board with the overarching strategy. Time out? Okay. I encourage you to come in and see more about what's going on in Columbus, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much.